Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining our webinar today. Uh, as you know, we'll be talking about from Informatica to DBT, talking about a migration path to an AI-ready data control plane. So I think we are ready to get started. Um, Before we dive into all the content today, I did want to highlight that it is Coalesce season. So basically, next month from October 13th through the 16th, we will be live in Las Vegas at our biggest conference of the year, right? For all of our amazing DBT community and customers. So please feel free to check out the agenda online. We have such an amazing lineup of sessions from our community of users, from our product teams, from some of the amazing people that work here at DBT Labs. And if you're unable to, be there in person, we also have an online agenda as well. So go there, check out the website, see what's going to be happening, and I really hope to see you there. It'll be a blast. And then I did want to go over just a few housekeeping things. So for Q&A, we do have a Q&A tab for all of your questions. We'll have someone answer them as the webinar is happening, and we'll follow up for anything that we're not able to get to. We also have a chat tab, so please use the chat tab for fun banter, for connecting with others, or highlighting what you'd actually like from the presentation if you want us to dive into something. And then etiquette, please be kind to fellow attendees and presenters. Definitely, ask those tough questions, share feedback. We're really glad you're here, but just make sure to keep it respectful and inclusive. And then as far as the recording, we will be sending out the recording within 24 hours after the event. So you're definitely able to rewatch and grab additional information through the recording. And then finally, we'll have a survey. So please make sure to take our survey at the end of the session so we know what you enjoyed or how we can potentially improve next time in our future webinars. Awesome. So intro, we talked about Coalesce, got through housekeeping. Let's dive in, starting with our speakers. So really quick, my name is Sarah Galinsky. I'm a technical product marketing manager here at DBT Labs. Been working in the data and AI space for a couple years now, and initially got my start helping really large enterprise companies modernize their cloud infrastructure, right? So going from on-prem to the cloud. Learned a lot, and it's been really fun to kind of take those lessons and expand that in the data ecosystem and helping companies now solve their data and AI challenges. So that's me. I hand it over to Petjo.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that I'm here, and thanks for joining us. My name is Petju, and I'm Chief Product Officer at Informatica, which is a data and AI consultancy helping people modernize data so that they can maximize impact.
So, of course, I have to introduce the content today by talking a little bit about AI, right? So AI really is now the forcing function of pretty much every data team, right? It'll either slow you down because your data isn't trusted or accessible, or it can actually propel you forward because your foundation is solid, right? So today I'll cover the modernization patterns that we see with DBT and how those choices can really set you up for AI projects that actually make it to production, right? Um, so yes, modernize now, right? That is the call to action here. And it's really because, legacy pipelines and stored procedures aren't just technical debt. They really slow change, they can obscure risk, and they can really balloon your TCO. When logic is buried in, black box jobs, every enhancement becomes risky. Every incident takes longer to debug, to figure out, and every audit becomes a tricky situation to be in. The teams that win are the ones that modernize, the ones that ship insights faster, the ones that respond to the business in, hours or days, not weeks or quarters, and the ones that build trust with transparent and testable code. And, let's talk a little about why, why now, what's changed. A lot has changed in the past 35 years. We've seen an evolution of data products. So of course, we've got our Oracles and Informaticas on the left, leading into things like Data Stage, Talent, and then Matillion, as recent as 2010. And each of these products, right? It's solved yesterday's data challenges and bottlenecks, right? They each served a purpose. And today's reality is really different, right? We have cloud warehouses, we have elastic compute. Data products are now owned by different domain teams or business units. And now we have, all of these AI initiatives, all these AI projects that we have to work on. And AI really expects governed, explainable, high quality data. This architectural center of gravity has really shifted from, these heavy standalone ETL tools to, the need for in-database transformation. And again, what changed? So much. The tools have changed, but also more critically, the requirements have changed even more. We have boards and regulators now asking, where did this number come from? What is the source of this data? We need lineage and tests. The lineage and tests aren't optional, anymore. Business units are running weekly experiments, and your data has to move at that cadence. Costs have to map now to ROI. Everything must be, plugged into a specific line item in a spreadsheet. And business participation is non-negotiable. You're not a factory taking orders, right? You want to enable them to build and act safely. Um, cool. And as organizations grow, different teams pick different tools. And, we heard talk about Informatica, but I'm sure you've seen that across, the companies that you work at, right? We have things like Warescape for architects, Informatica or Matillion for our data engineers, Alteryx or Talent for analytics engineers, Tableau, Power BI for, our BI developers, and, Excel and Sheets for analysts. And of course, this is a very fluid um, kind of selection, right? It's not a one-to-one mapping of, oh, this is your title, this is the tool you're working at, but this is just to more explicitly state, um, people are working in silos, right? Each one of these tools might be used across your business in some way or some shape or form, and each one of these products has its own workflow and its own terminology. Um, and again, each team, each user is working out of their own silo. So the same KPI is implemented in potentially 5 different ways. There's no single place to review logic, no single source of truth, and it really erodes trust. I mean, seriously, have you ever had two teams argue over which, monthly revenue number was right? And according to their own solution and their own calculations, both of them were correct in their own way? Yeah. Um, so this is the opportunity, right? Modernization isn't just a tooling swap. It's really a chance to redesign how your team delivers value and how your business participates in all things data. So here's what leaders or your teams can unlock when you modernize, right? So I think this might be a no-brainer, but I really want you to think about what this could potentially mean for you or your teams, right? So first, time to value. What happens if you can go from quarters to weeks because your work is actually modular, it's tested, and it's, reviewed? What happens if you can actually reduce your cost or the complexity of your data stack, right? Organizations often see 50 to 80% lower transformation costs by consolidating on in-database processing, by actually using compute efficiently, and by removing duplicate workflows. You'd probably be shocked at how many duplicate workflows are running the same calculations or same data transformations, again, across different tooling. Um, Building more resilient operations, right? What happens if you didn't saw, what happens if you saw a drop in your incident numbers? What happens if your recovery is actually faster because lineage, tests, and logs show exactly what changed, when it changed, and where it changed? And then the one that I really do want to emphasize, because we're talking about AI here, is strategic reinvestment. So um, all those savings can really fund growth initiatives like AI. And AI really only works when your data is, high quality, when your data is governed, documented, and explainable. Think, having safer RAG systems that are actually built over trusted data models, having AI co-pilots that understand your DAG, your tests, having agents that can actually take action because of the underlying semantics and policies are codified and they're clear. Enter DBT, right? So why modernize with DBT? So this next section is going to be all about, right? So DBT brings software engineering best practices to analytics, right? Where your data lives in whichever data platform you choose. Tens of thousands of companies have replaced legacy ETL and standard and stored procedures with DBT, right? DBT has become a standard. And the ecosystem is very large, right? We have packages, we have a lot of best practices, and an amazing community, right? That has your back. It means that you're not inventing from scratch and you're adopting the way that modern teams are already working. With DBT, you can build robust transformations with modular SQL or even Python models. You can manage production pipelines with built-in CI/CD, testing, and governance. You can analyze securely at scale with a platform that actually respects, the warehouse that you choose to work out of and integrates with your BI tools and AI systems. With the built-in semantic layer, you can even centralize metric definitions that get shipped alongside the rest of your data models, right? And with AI copilots and things like conversational interfaces, DBT is really helping teams move faster by suggesting, code, bringing new insights across your data estate, and letting more people contribute across your data estate in more accessible ways, right? And everyone moves faster when they move together. With DBT, you get shared definitions that BI, data, and business partners can trust, integrated workflows, so changes can actually flow from pull request to production with a set tests and approvals. And there are experiences for every persona from your data engineer to your analyst. So basically less rework, less refactoring, and just shipping more, right? Doing more, innovating more. And if you're coming from a data engineer heavy Informatica world, this is really the unlock here, right? You gain shared context, so downstream teams aren't blocking you, and you don't have to spend time necessarily refactoring or rewriting logic from fragmented tools, right? And high performing data teams build like software teams, right? They build uh, data workflows that contain modular code, that are test driven, that are governed, and built for iterations, right? Very important for data engineers out there. And this has really been a founding principle of DBT from day one. Again, version control, having built-in CI, tests shipped alongside your pipeline, not somewhere separately, and having, built-in documentation. This is the foundation, the fundamentals of what makes DBT DBT. And the result is, again, more innovation with the confidence to ship often, right? Because you have these guardrails that can catch issues early. So trust isn't really an afterthought, it's engineered into every step of your data workflow. And of course, everyone loves a platform architecture slide, and I think this can hopefully recap what we just unpacked over the last, how many minutes? 10 minutes or so. So we talked about how DBT is known for data transformation, basically taking raw data and making it ready for consumption. That's where DBT started 9 years ago. What we are now offering is an entire data control plane. Tooling that you once had to glue together previously is now in one place. So things like orchestration, observability, cost management, a catalog, a semantic layer, right? All fully integrated in a single place with metadata that is integrated deeply and drives great results, right? And this is all powered by the dbt Fusion engine. On top of that, we still do all of our processing in database and increasingly so across different warehouses and engines with data mesh capabilities. And finally, to build that out completely, the different personas that are really enabled with the platform are not just, your analytics engineers, data engineers, right? It's built for everyone, even for business stakeholders. And oh, we can't forget, all of the AI features that are now powering our platforms and the AI systems that our data is feeding into. So we have MCP capabilities for AI agents and built-in AI copilots to accelerate development. Literally everyone in the company can participate and get a better understanding of what data is available to them and how data is changing across their pipelines. So let's talk about the path from legacy ETL to a modern AI-ready control plane and how to reduce risk along the way. And, migration, it really does. It has a reputation and isn't great. We're not asking you to disappear for years while you make the jump. There are new tools and methods at your disposal now that you can really use to de-risk and reduce the pain of even hearing the word migration, right? I get chills just thinking about it. Right now, we've got proven playbooks that get you to value quickly. You have AI-assisted migration tooling that can really accelerate pattern discovery and code translation. So this way, you can actually reuse your SQL and carry forward that business logic. This way, you're not throwing away valuable institutional knowledge. You can make it visible and testable. And because DBT is the industry standard, you can really tap into a large talent pool, making it easier to hire and scale. So the outcome is clear: less risk, faster wins, and a clear runway to more transformative AI projects. So hopefully I made the word migration a little bit less scary. And I'm excited to actually hand it over to our partners at Infinite Lambda to really show you how they operationalize this migration approach in the real world and what they've seen firsthand. So with that, I'm going to hand it over.
Sarah did a remarkable job showing us the power of DBT and how it helps us escape from managing data to creating value with it. And now some of you are starting to wonder, where do I start? So let me walk you through a high-level overview of what is involved in an ETL modernization. First, you're going to have to choose how you will be migrating the code itself. By far, the simplest way is to attempt a lift and shift code by lift and shift migration. There are a number of code automation tools out there that will help you translate the code with certain level of accuracy to DBT. And this will benefit from a perceived speed and simplicity. And I say perceived because sometimes you might actually be spending a lot of the time validating the output from those automatic code conversion tools. Then this is also going to be a relatively risk-free migration because you're not really changing any of the logic that is in those pipelines, so you don't have to understand it really, and all you're doing is validating that it still produces the same outputs. However, when you do that, you're not really being able to take advantage of a lot of the cloud benefits, and you're not going to be able to reduce some of the technical debt that you have in your Informatica pipelines. On the complete end of the spectrum of a migration approach is a rewrite mechanism. Now, this will truly allow you to create a cloud native solution. However, for anyone that has ever attempted a complete platform rewrite, alarm bells will start ringing immediately because this is a huge investment of time, money, and effort. And if you're not actually changing any of the data products that are being created, you're not changing any of the logic, you're not taking the time to rationalize what is actually happening in your data estate, then there are no clear benefits to this approach. Also, because by completely rewriting all of the logic, you're going to have to understand what it actually does. A lot of that code has been written over sometimes decades, and a lot of the times not written by yourself. Then this is an incredibly risky approach. Now, as many things in life, the truth is really somewhere in the middle. And that's why a replatforming and a refactoring approach is what we would recommend, because what you're going to do in that is lift and shift the data and logic, and then come back to the resulting code in DBT and take some time to incorporate some best practices and overall look for improvements. You can do that by selecting a bunch of tools that are available out there that will allow you to do. However, I argue that most of the tools that are available that will do this completely automatically are actually pushing you towards a lift and shift solution. So you really want to do an assisted approach. So you want to use a human-led approach where you're using code automation for some of the low-hanging fruit and for translating the code to DBT, but then you're taking some time, again, human-led, to refactor with AI or just by raw human power to refactor some of that resulting code base. Once you have done that and you know how you do it, the next really important thing to do is to look at an assessment. And an assessment is a critical part to complete before attempting any migration. What that involves is actually taking out the skeletons from the closet, really. It's understanding what it is that you have in those legacy pipelines and understanding where you may need to spend time. So you're going to look at the sources, you're going to look at destinations of data, and you're going to look at those code pipelines in its complexity. Here, you want to spend some time scoring each pipeline and giving it some sort of complexity points so you can then understand what is the human effort that will be involved in migrating these pipelines. You may even attempt to convert one of these pipelines so that you better understand what those complexity points translate to in real human terms. You want to understand the 3 V's for data, so volume, velocity, and variety, so that you're able to appropriately size your new data architecture and cost profile it. You're also going to have to identify the areas for optimization because this is critical. You want to understand what are those inefficiencies in your talent pipelines. For example, we might be looking at a lot of code duplication, and this is where DBT macros can substantially help us actually reduce the overall footprint of the resulting application, which will then translate to maintenance benefits and so on and so forth. So once you have done this, understood your entire estate, and you have selected the various migration approaches, then obviously you have support from the business. You're pretty much halfway there. Now, I really want to warn you that once you attempt this, it's not necessary that you will complete and succeed. The statistics say that only one of those migrations actually succeeds. And the success criteria here is completing on time and on budget. That's why we are at the Infant Lambda created Flowline. This is a packaged software and service solution that helps enterprises modernize legacy infrastructure talent in Informatica to an AI-ready platform in weeks instead of months or years. And by doing so, they end up slashing licensing cost and substantially accelerating time to value. So let me actually explain in more detail what Flowline is. So the first thing is to take an extract of the legacy pipelines. So talent, Informatica, SQL Server, SSIS. We then take this and convert it using deterministic code to DBT. And I say here deterministic, and it's really important to understand that we don't actually use any AI at this step. And there's some clear and obvious reasons for that. One, it's actually cheaper to run deterministic code. Two, it's deterministic. It's the same way every single time, no matter how many times you run it. So that's why we're able to bake in best practices at this point. We're able to actually create things exactly the same way. We achieve about 95% of automatic code conversion to DBT, and this already gives us a 10x improvement versus a manual write. Now, the next step is really critical. We take the resulting DBT models and we take production quality data and we compare that with the outputs produced by the new pipelines. This is a step that is helped by automation again and led by human. So at the end of this step, what we will have is a nearly 100% reconciled pipelines. I say nearly 100% because a lot of the times people will actually be moving the underlying data warehouse as well, which means that sometimes there will be differences just because of the newly replatformed warehouse. This might come from data types or any other limitations or improvements actually in the platform. So at this point, people will have the trust in the migrated pipelines. And the next step is really critical, where we take some proprietary AI that we built, and again, human-led, we refactor the code so that we achieve better performance, reduce the code size, and obviously look to reduce the cost. And we can do this very confidently because in step 2, as you remember, we have established a stable baseline where we converted the code as is without doing a lot of improvements on it, and we established that it's correct. So we got sign off, and then we actually look to refactor. Then the final step that our offering gives you is actually a rapid onboarding for the technology and business teams. So we take time to actually train any technology folks on the new platform, and also take some time to train the business users on the new platform if there were any changes. So what are the benefits of modernizing with Infant Lambda and Flowline? Well, first, we substantially reduce the time to value because our automation allows us to convert the code very quickly, but also it allows us to convert the code and test it very quickly. One of the things that we have found by doing this over many years, we understood that the conversion is the easy part, but testing and validating the data, understanding the differences and getting people to sign off is what takes a lot of time. That's why we concentrated a lot of our effort in building automation to help with this process. Second, we offer a risk-free delivery by offering fixed cost. So if you remember earlier in this presentation, I talked to you about migrations failing because they don't deliver on time and budget. That's why we're offering fixed costs so that people can really understand what it will cost to migrate, and therefore we're going to be successful. As well as that, we are able to offer a predictable timeline so that people understand when the project will actually complete. By taking a step to actually refactor the resulting platform, we're improving the overall platform. We're removing some of the technical debt that was already there. We're improving the code for maintenance by reducing its size, taking out code duplication, and actually improving for cost and performance. As well as that, our comprehensive change management onboards and brings people so that the resulting platform can get 100% adoption and not just an isolated migrated platform off to the side. So when you compare the value of taking a manual approach or a fully automated approach, Infant Lambda's Flowline, which is a human-led process but heavily assisted by AI on automation, really starts to create a lot of value for organizations. And here I'm able to share a couple of case studies which you can read on our website about a French insurer called Massif, who was able to save a substantial amount of licensing cost. Actually, this is one of my favorite example here, where operations people are now able to go home earlier and on time, and because the pipelines now are running substantially quicker. One of the examples reduces a pipeline from running for over 2 hours to just under 5 minutes. And this is benefited from us being able to migrate the code to benefit, but also refactor it. AstraZeneca, on the other side, is positioned to save multi-billion in terms of the total cost of ownership split across people that need to manage the data and licensing fees as well. They're now able to take advantage of their AI ready platform to power better data experiences, as well as deliver on their commitment to find new drugs, really. So that is a huge benefit to them. For anyone that wishes to understand whether they're ready to actually start a migration, Infant and DBT have partnered to deliver this online assessment. So you can go to migrationassessment.infinitelambda.com or scan the QR code on your screens right now. You'll be able to go through about 30 odd questions that will then assess your migration readiness in terms of our proprietary framework called Ready, Set, Go, and it'll actually tell you where you still need to improve. Alongside that, it will actually send you a personalized migration guide as a PDF, which you can download, and it will take you through the areas for improvement and how you should approach the migration. So thank you so much for your time today, and look forward to answering some of your questions.
Thanks so much, Petro. I wanted to just thank you again for talking about, what you've seen, on the front lines over at Infinite Lambda, helping real teams migrate from some of those legacy ETL solutions over to something a bit more modern like DBT. Hopefully y'all took something away from that. I did really just want to wrap up the content of this webinar with just a few more slides, starting with debunking, some of the questions that you might hear when initiating that migration conversation, right? So first, isn't migration just a rewrite? Hopefully you saw in the beginning that a move to DBT is more than just taking your SQL code and refactoring or rewriting it and moving it from one product to another. With DBT, you have an entire platform that acts as that data control plane that can really be leveraged across teams, consolidate a lot of your existing tooling, and then actually help to help you consume data across different BI tools, AI systems, and really bring that to production in a very safe, governed way. So definitely more than a rewrite when it comes to DBT. And then second, oh no, like, are we going to get locked in? Isn't this just like another potential lock-in? Are we just doing the same thing again? And for here, I would say, no, right? There's definitely a need for platform flexibility, right? You definitely want to avoid lock-in, and DBT can help you do that. And let's start by really looking back at two different relatively recent eras, right? So the first is this tool sprawl era, where you have dozens of tools with data pipelines spread across multiple vendors and analytics logic that's actually duplicated across all of these tools, which really leads to a tight coupling between these tools and workflows with no common control plane, right? With organizations locked into specific tools, the switching costs were extremely high and resulted in difficult to scale fragile workflows. And that brings us to the SQL standardization era, right? Where analytics was consolidated in DBT and SQL. And the centralized transformation logic really led to scalable and maintainable workflows. But, at what cost? Organizations were then locked into their cloud provider and cloud data platform. Data workflows were easier to manage, but there was limited mobility and control over costs. That's why DBT really met, customers where they were, met our users where they were today. Over half of DBT customers are working across multiple data platforms, and 81% of enterprises use more than one cloud provider. That's just the reality that we live in, right? Multi-data platform, multi-cloud. With native hosting, organizations now have the ability to use DBT on their cloud provider of choice, whether that's AWS, Azure, now GCP. Teams can run DBT close to their data without compromising governance, security, or latency, and make purchases from marketplaces of their choice if they want to. And finally, organizations have flexibility across compute engines, right? With support for Iceberg, right catalog integrations for select adapters, and there's plenty more exciting news to come here. You can learn more about what we support today and what's coming next in our docs. And we've also got some really awesome developer blogs if you want to check those out too. But this isn't just about checking boxes. It's about really giving teams a choice without having a penalty tied to it. You can move at your own pace, use the best fit platform for your specific data workloads, and still take advantage of DBT's semantic layer and developer experience. That's the kind of flexibility that empowers teams to really own their own future. And of course, well, what about ROI? Are we going to save costs? What does that mean for me and my teams? And then, of course, how does DBT drive value for our customers? I think we kind of look at it across these, maybe three big pillars of tooling and maintenance, IT costs, efficiency and business benefits. And then those are broken up into, kind of like four main buckets, right? So the first being, just the cost of current tooling, right? We can help with that. Second being cloud platform savings, operational efficiency, so freeing up engineer and analyst time to really focus on core business, and then actually helping you deliver on business impact. So accelerating, innovation that actually impacts, some of the table stakes asks from your leadership team. So don't really want to dive into each one of these. Please take a look at the slide or in the recording. I think there's a lot to really unpack there, and there's so much that the DBT platform can deliver across each of these. We also conduct these business value assessments, and we love if anyone is interested, you would like to kind of pair with us on one of these. These business value assessments can really bring a lot of insight to how DBT can impact your organization specifically. So we help you build out like an executive summary with your business objectives, the current state of what your data stack looks like, what pains you're facing, and then a recommended path forward. We can also help build a financial model, right? So what does that ROI look like, payback periods, an actual TCO comparison. We'll help you value map, so prioritizing actual use case that are tied to measurable outcomes for your organization. And then finally, an adoption plan. So what does that phase rollout look like? What would the key milestones be for your team? And then, of course, what metrics would you want to track to actually ensure that you're being successful? So what is the call to action for us today? Again, I think Petro shared some insights from his section of how you can get started with their migration assessment. Definitely take a look at that. We also have, our business value assessment, and we're more than willing to help, jump on a call and co-develop what an implementation plan would look like for your team and your business. So definitely, again, reach out. We're happy to help. All right, with that, thank you so much for joining. Hopefully y'all, took something away from this webinar today. I know it was very slide heavy, but there was so much to cover and not a lot of time. So again, thank you for joining. Please connect with us over at DBT Labs and Infinite Lambda. There's a lot of brilliant people that work across these two companies that are more than happy to, again, jump in, talk about your use cases, what challenges you're currently facing with some of the data tools you're using, or if you're trying to consolidate, if you're trying to modernize from something like an Informatica, please reach out. I think there's a talk to an expert button that you can click that'll help speed up that process. And yeah, I know we mentioned in the beginning, but check out Coalesce 2025. It's going to be so much fun. Again, so many exciting product announcements and talks, and just being able to be in a shared space with so many data, practitioners. It's really something special, and I learn so much in the span of 3 days every time that I attend. So definitely, check out, register now, in person, online. We'll be thrilled to see you there either way. And then again, we do have a survey, so please let us know what you thought. Fill out that survey. If there's things that we didn't cover in this topic today that you wanted us to cover, please let us know. If there's anything else about just the webinar in general, we're always willing and happy to hear your feedback. All right. Thanks so much. All right, folks. Till next time.